The FBI's recent revelation behind Bruce Lee's mysterious death has left the Lee family trembling. From assassination plots to ancient curses, the mystery behind his death has only deepened with each passing year. But now, after decades of speculation, the official cause of death has finally been uncovered. What happened to the martial arts legend on that fateful day in 1973 is disturbing. Modern forensic science has pieced together the mystery, revealing a tragic irony connected to Lee's own philosophy. Join us as we uncover the shocking FBI findings that expose what caused the death of one of history's most disciplined athletes. The legend falls. The FBI's recent revelation about Bruce Lee's official cause of death has sent shockwaves through his family. For decades, conspiracy theories swirled. Was it foul play? A secret martial arts technique? A deadly curse? But now, for the first time, declassified FBI documents have revealed the truth behind Bruce Lee's tragic end. It all began on July 20, 1973, a day that forever changed the martial arts world. Bruce Lee, only 32 years old and in peak condition, collapsed suddenly at the Hong Kong apartment of actress Betty Ting Pei. His producer, Raymond Chow, was called to the scene, but by the time help arrived, it was too late. Bruce was rushed to Queen Elizabeth Hospital, where doctors declared the Kung Fu master dead on arrival. The world was in shock. How could someone so young, so fit, just drop dead? The official cause of death at the time? Cerebral edema, swelling of the brain. But what caused the swelling remained an unanswered question that would haunt the Lee family for decades. At the time, authorities ruled it as an allergic reaction to medication. But those closest to Bruce knew something wasn't right. Why did he collapse in the weeks leading up to his death? Why was he in Betty Ting Pei's apartment instead of home with his wife Linda? Why did the investigation seem rushed, with so many loose ends? For years, the mystery only deepened, and as speculation raged, the FBI quietly took notice. Recently declassified FBI files reveal that in the years following Bruce Lee's death, U.S. intelligence agencies began gathering reports on the circumstances surrounding his passing. The sudden death of a global superstar, especially one connected to Hollywood, Hong Kong, and the growing influence of martial arts in the West, was seen as suspicious. What the FBI discovered, however, was more shocking than any assassination plot or curse. Their forensic team, armed with modern medical analysis, would uncover a disturbing, overlooked truth that not only explained Bruce Lee's death, but also revealed a tragic irony linked to his own philosophy. Now, after 50 years of uncertainty, the FBI's official cause of death has finally been confirmed, and it's more shocking than anyone ever expected. What really happened to Bruce Lee that day? And why did it take 5 decades for the truth to emerge? The final day. July 20, 1973. A day that would change history forever. Bruce Lee was in the prime of his career, preparing for his highly anticipated film, Game of Death. That afternoon, he met with his longtime friend and producer, Raymond Chow, to discuss the project details over lunch. According to Chow's testimony, Bruce seemed energetic, sharp and focused, excited about the future. But Bruce never made it home that night. Instead, he went to the apartment of actress Betty Ting Pei. He told Chow they needed to discuss her role in the film. But what happened in that apartment over the next few hours remains one of the most controversial moments in Hollywood history. At around 7:30 p.m., Bruce complained of a severe headache. Betty gave him an equagesic pill, a combination of aspirin and a muscle relaxant that Bruce had taken before. Shortly after, he went to lie down to rest. When Betty tried to wake Bruce for dinner around 9:30 p.m., he didn't respond. Panicked, she called Raymond Chow, who rushed back to the apartment. They tried desperately to wake Bruce, but he remained unconscious. Emergency measures failed. A doctor was called, who performed CPR for 10 minutes. Nothing worked. Then, Bruce was rushed to Queen Elizabeth Hospital, but it was too late. At 11:30 p.m., Bruce Lee was pronounced dead on arrival, shocking the world and devastating his family. "I keep replaying that day in my mind," Linda Lee would later tell investigators. "If only he had come home instead." The official autopsy revealed Bruce's brain had swollen to 1,575 grams, well above the normal 1,400 grams. Doctors ruled that the cause of death was cerebral edema, caused by an allergic reaction to the equagesic. But this explanation never sat well with Bruce's family or his fans. Why would Bruce suddenly have an allergic reaction to a medication he had taken before? Why was he at Betty Ting Pei's apartment instead of home with his wife, Linda? Why did he collapse just 2 months earlier, only to recover? Linda Lee remained skeptical. Bruce was too careful with his body. This doesn't make sense, she told investigators. Shannon Lee, Bruce's daughter, echoed this doubt years later. My father was incredibly disciplined. Something doesn't add up. But what no one realized at the time was that this was only the beginning of a mystery that would span decades. And as the FBI took a closer look years later, the truth would turn out to be even stranger than the wildest conspiracy theories. The first investigation. The official investigation into Bruce Lee's death began on September 30, 1973, more than 2 months after his passing. Conducted by Hong Kong authorities, it aimed to put an end to the swirling rumors. But instead, it raised even more questions. Dr. R.R. Lysette, the pathologist at Queen Elizabeth Hospital, performed the autopsy and confirmed that Bruce Lee had suffered from cerebral edema, severe swelling of the brain. However, the coroner's report offered a vague conclusion: death by misadventure. This official explanation suggested that Bruce suffered a rare allergic reaction to the equagesic pill he had taken for his headache earlier that evening. But almost immediately, medical experts and fans found glaring issues with this ruling. Cerebral edema isn't a cause of death, a symptom, explained Dr. Peter Wu, a neurologist who later reviewed the case files. The real question isn't what killed Bruce Lee, it's why his brain swelled so dramatically and so quickly. Even more troubling, the toxicology report revealed small traces of cannabis in Bruce's system, but at levels too low to be lethal. No other hard drugs, no poisons, and no signs of foul play were found. His heart, lungs, and other organs appeared healthy, with no signs of disease or trauma. Then came the biggest red flag of all, Bruce's mysterious collapse just 2 months earlier. On May 10, 1973, while dubbing dialogue for Enter the Dragon, Bruce suddenly collapsed in the recording studio's bathroom. He experienced seizures, complained of dizziness, and was rushed to the hospital. Doctors diagnosed him with cerebral edema. The exact condition would kill him in July. But Bruce recovered within hours, was cleared by specialists in the U.S., and resumed filming. Linda Lee provided testimony about Bruce's health. After the May incident, Bruce went through multiple medical tests. Doctors found nothing wrong with him. He was cleared to continue working and was following doctors' orders. But what if those doctors missed something? However, the investigation failed to connect these two incidents conclusively. Media speculation ran wild, with Hong Kong newspapers publishing sensational theories about curses, secret martial arts injuries, and even assassination by the triads for revealing martial arts secrets to Westerners. For decades, this incomplete investigation left Bruce Lee's family without answers. Linda struggled to protect her children from the rumors while dealing with her own grief and questions. Not knowing exactly why Bruce died has been a burden we've carried for years, Linda would later confess. We deserved better answers than what we got back then. Those answers would finally begin to emerge when the FBI became interested in the case years later and applied modern forensic techniques to re-examine the evidence. But not for decades. Years later, the FBI took an unexpected interest in the case. Using modern forensic science, investigators began re-examining old evidence with fresh eyes, and what they found would rewrite everything we thought we knew about Bruce Lee's death. Theories and rumors. Theories multiplied faster than facts in the decades following Bruce Lee's death. Every new discovery sparked controversy, but none could provide solid proof. Some believed Bruce's death was no accident, that someone wanted him dead. Others saw it as something even more chilling, a supernatural fate that was impossible to escape. For Shannon Lee, Bruce's daughter, the rumors were the hardest part. The rumors were like salt in our wounds. While we were grieving, people were spinning wild stories about my father's death. Medical theories ranged from heat stroke to epilepsy. In 2018, author Matthew Polly suggested in his book, Bruce Lee: A Life, that Hong Kong was experiencing a heat wave in July 1973, and Bruce had his sweat glands surgically removed from his armpits because he didn't like how sweat stains looked on camera. This may have triggered fatal heat stroke. Some neurologists suggested that Bruce suffered from an undiagnosed seizure disorder that went unrecognized in 1973. Through it all, Linda Lee fought against the more lurid speculations. Bruce was neither taking drugs nor was he murdered, she insisted repeatedly. He was a dedicated martial artist who took care of his body. Perhaps the most hurtful rumor involved Betty Ting Pei, the actress in whose apartment Bruce died. Tabloids suggested they were having an affair, adding another layer of pain for Linda and the children. People forget there's a real family behind the headlines, Shannon said. Every new theory, every sensational claim, had to live with that while trying to preserve my father's legacy. For years, the Lee family hoped the speculation would eventually fade. Instead, it only intensified as Bruce's legend grew. Without definitive answers, the vacuum was filled with increasingly bizarre claims that obscured what really happened. Sometimes I think people prefer the mysteries and conspiracies, Linda once said with resignation. The truth might be less dramatic, but it's what Bruce deserves, what our family needs, but the truth would not remain buried forever. When the FBI reopened the case, forensic experts uncovered something far more shocking than anyone had expected. Forgotten clue that changed everything. The forgotten clue. For 2 decades, Bruce Lee's mysterious death remained a puzzle, one that seemed destined to remain unsolved. But then, in an unexpected twist, a forgotten piece of evidence resurfaced. A clue so obvious, yet so overlooked, that it changed everything. It all started when a neurologist who researched rare brain conditions discovered Bruce's complete medical records from Baptist Hospital following his first collapse in May 1973. These records contained a critical detail that had been sitting unnoticed. Bruce's blood urea nitrogen, BUN level, was measured at 92 milligrams per deciliter, an alarmingly high number. The normal range is between 7 and 20 milligrams per deciliter. This finding changes everything, the neurologist noted. The doctors in 1973 focused entirely on Bruce's brain symptoms while missing what his kidneys were telling them. Bruce's kidneys were failing and nobody realized it. Even more shocking, the records showed that Bruce had lost significant weight in the months before his death, dropping from 165 pounds to around 120 pounds. A staggering decline for a man known for his peak physical fitness. His diet had also changed drastically, mostly carrot and apple juice, almost no solid food. This new evidence immediately caught the attention of the FBI's Forensic Pathology Unit. They recognized a pattern consistent with a medical risk that wasn't well understood in 1973, severe hyponatremia, a dangerously low sodium level in the blood that can cause brain swelling, seizures, and sudden death. For Linda Lee, Bruce's wife, the revelation was shocking. All these years, we thought it was something exotic or complicated, she said, but it was something so simple that got overlooked. Determined to fill in the missing gaps, FBI agents tracked down Bruce's surviving friends and associates, piecing together a disturbing portrait of his final months. Bruce was always experimenting with his diet and training, recalled James Coburn, one of Bruce's Hollywood students. He pushed everything to the extreme. His body was his laboratory, but this time I think he went too far. This long-overlooked medical clue would become the foundation for a comprehensive reassessment of Bruce Lee's death, one that would finally provide answers to his family. But before the world could grasp the full truth, an even bigger revelation was about to surface, a medical breakthrough that tied every clue together in a way no one expected. The medical breakthrough. In 2020, the FBI's forensic analysis team made a groundbreaking discovery, one that completely rewrote the narrative of Bruce Lee's death. A forensic toxicologist specializing in historical cases noticed something peculiar while reviewing Bruce Lee's preserved tissue samples from the original autopsy. What caught my attention wasn't what was present, but what was absent, the specialist explained. The electrolyte imbalance in the preserved samples was extreme, particularly the sodium levels. Using advanced mass spectrometry techniques, unavailable in the 1970s, the forensic team detected unusual ratios of potassium to sodium that suggested severe hyponatremia had occurred shortly before death. But the biggest revelation? They found markers indicating this wasn't a sudden event, but one that had developed gradually over weeks, maybe even months. This wasn't just about what happened on July 20, the specialist told FBI investigators. Bruce's body had been progressively losing its ability to regulate electrolytes for some time. So what caused this fatal imbalance? The FBI team connected the dots, linking Bruce's crash diet, excessive water consumption, and past medical episodes. Friends reported he sometimes consumed nothing but carrot juice for days. His weight had dropped dramatically. Photographs from Enter the Dragon, compared to those taken just weeks before his death, showed alarming muscle loss despite his continued training. "We believe Bruce had unknowingly put himself in a deadly cycle," explained an FBI agent. His restrictive diet depleted essential electrolytes, which compromised kidney function, and his excessive water intake was flushing sodium out of his bloodstream. His medications, including diuretics and equagesic, further disrupted his body's ability to regulate fluids. His previous collapse in May had been a warning sign, but it was ignored. And on July 20, 1973, the final trigger sealed his fate. On the day he died, Bruce was sweating excessively due to Hong Kong's heat wave. But instead of replenishing his sodium levels, he drank even more water, unknowingly diluting his blood further. By the time he took the equagesic pill at Betty Ting Pei's apartment, his sodium levels were already critically low. "It was like a ticking time bomb," an FBI agent later explained. "All the factors aligned to create a perfect storm. His body simply couldn't handle it anymore." And that's when it happened. Bruce's brain cells swelled beyond their limit, triggering cerebral edema, a fatal chain reaction he couldn't survive. When Linda Lee learned of these findings, she recalled conversations with Bruce in his final weeks. "He kept saying his body was speaking to him in new ways. I thought he meant spiritual enlightenment. Now I realize he was experiencing the early warnings his system was giving him." The legendary martial artist, whose philosophy was, "Be water, my friend," had ironically been consumed by it. The truth wasn't a grand conspiracy or an ancient curse. Bruce Lee's death was a tragic case of human error, overlooked medical science, and a body pushed to its absolute limits. But one question still remained: why did it take so long for the truth to come out? The FBI's official report would finally put the pieces together. The FBI involvement. For the first time, the FBI's Cold Case Forensic Analysis Unit became interested in Bruce Lee's case after several medical researchers published new papers questioning the original findings. With Linda Lee's permission, they began a thorough review of all available evidence. The inconsistencies in Bruce Lee's autopsy reports could no longer be ignored. "We never expected the FBI to take an interest after all these years," Shannon Lee admitted. "But when they called Mom, she immediately agreed. We just wanted the truth, no matter what it was." With Linda Lee's permission, the FBI launched a full-scale forensic investigation. They re-examined the original autopsy reports, medical records, eyewitness statements, and even climate data from Hong Kong in July 1973. A specialized FBI task force was assembled, forensic pathologists to analyze the official cause of death, toxicologists to determine if toxins, medications, or drugs played a role, and kidney specialists to investigate Bruce's underlying health issues. What made this case particularly challenging was the cremation of Bruce's remains shortly after his death, leaving no physical evidence to re-examine. Instead, investigators had to rely heavily on medical records and eyewitness accounts. The challenge with cold cases is separating facts from the legends that grow around them, the agent noted. With Bruce Lee being such an iconic figure, that was especially difficult. As the investigation progressed, the Lee family received regular updates. For Linda and Shannon, it was an emotional roller coaster as new findings challenged long-held beliefs. "Some days I'd feel like we were finally getting answers," Linda recalled. "Other days it felt like we were losing Bruce all over again as we learned more about his suffering." But then, after months of painstaking research, the FBI uncovered a crucial link that had gone unnoticed for decades. Bruce Lee's mysterious death had one undeniable connection: water. The official report. After 18 months of intensive investigation, the FBI officially released their findings in a comprehensive 126-page report. The document, bearing the FBI seal, was first presented to Linda and Shannon Lee before being made public. "The moment they handed us that folder, my hands were shaking," Linda recalled. "After 5 decades of questions, we were finally going to know." The report's conclusion was definitive. Bruce Lee died from cerebral edema caused by hyponatremia, sometimes called water intoxication. In layman's terms, his brain swelled fatally because his kidneys couldn't excrete excess water fast enough due to multiple compounding factors. The report explained that Bruce's kidneys had been compromised by his extremely low-calorie diet and previous injury. When he drank water on his final day while taking medications that impaired water excretion, his blood sodium dropped to lethal levels, allowing water to rush into his brain cells. Be water, my friend. Bruce Lee's famous philosophy had sadly taken on a tragic, chilling irony, as the FBI investigation led to one disturbing conclusion. Bruce had unknowingly drowned himself from the inside. The FBI analysis determined that Bruce's famous quote about being water had inadvertently foreshadowed his own demise. The very element he philosophically embraced had physiologically overwhelmed his system. The water connection finally explained both the May incident and his July death as part of the same underlying condition, a progressive deterioration in his body's ability to regulate fluids that ultimately proved fatal. What's remarkable is how many different factors aligned to create this tragedy, explained an FBI forensic pathologist during the press conference. It speaks to how even someone in peak physical condition can be vulnerable when pushing physiological extremes. When the findings became public, medical experts praised the thoroughness of the investigation. This case demonstrates how modern forensic techniques can solve historical medical mysteries, noted the American Academy of Forensic Sciences president. The mystery was finally solved. Bruce Lee's family faced a whirlwind of emotions when the FBI's findings became public. Linda Lee, now in her 80s, and Shannon Lee, the guardian of her father's legacy, had to process the truth after decades of uncertainty. Linda Lee felt a mix of relief and sadness. After all these years, we finally have the truth. But knowing his death was preventable makes it even harder. What do you think about this revelation? Does knowing the truth change how you see Bruce Lee's legacy? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.